Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Bikes or Death podcast. As always, my name is Patrick, and I'm your host. And on today's episode, my guest is a man who needs no introduction, the one and only Ronnie Romance, aka Ultraromance. Happened to be traveling through Texas on a vacation that he's currently on, and he was nice enough to grant me an audience for a little bit of time. Him and I met up in Austin at Cycleast. I got to give them a shout out because they kept us out of the cold and the wind. They had a little storage container in the back that they turned into an office, and they made it available so we could have this chat. It's always fun. The quirky and unique places that I wind up interviewing people, it always adds like a little dynamic that you can't really appreciate because this episode is audio only. There's no video, but for Ronnie and I, it was kind of a cool setting. It was a fun way to have a chat. It was an absolute pleasure to catch up with Ronnie. It's been since the fall of 2019 since the last time we spoke, and a lot's happened since then, so we had a lot to talk about. We had an absolute great chat. He is so much fun. He's so entertaining, and I absolutely loved it, and I think you will too. But before we get to that episode, let's take a moment to thank the people who made it possible, starting with our latest patrons. So this week, we'd like to thank Andy Stockman for signing up as a patron. Much appreciated, sir. And we'd like to thank Mike Christensen for increasing his monthly pledge over on Patreon. We surely do appreciate all your support. It helps me put gas in the gas tank to run around Texas and actually just all over the United States capturing these interviews. Every little bit goes a long way, and if you would like to help me produce these shows, you can find out more over at patreon.com/bikesor-death. One of the advantages of being a patron is that I let you know who my next guests are going to be and give you an opportunity to ask questions. So for this episode, we got a patron question or two in there, and we appreciate y'all contributing in that manner. One of my next episodes we have coming up is going to be with a physical therapist, and over on the private Patreon Facebook page, we have a nice discussion thread going on about various topics and questions that should be discussed. So if that's something that interests you or you just want to support the show, again, you can find out more over at patreon.com/bikes-or-death. All right, everybody. Today we have Katie Bryce, who is the CEO of Old Man Mountain Racks, to talk to us today. Welcome to the show, Katie.
Yeah, stoked to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm glad you could hop on a call. So Old Man Mountain makes bike racks that are traditionally thought of as used for bike touring. What would you say to that?
Yeah, so Old Man Mountain started in 1996 when we wanted to put racks on bikes that weren't made for touring, mostly mountain bikes. And at that time, it was front suspension bikes. So we use racks because we like to stay out longer. We like to carry a little more gear. Sometimes because that's putting in more miles and really pushing ourselves. Other times we pack, some luxury items like a camp chair to find a nice spot to hang out in the backcountry. Old Man Mountain Racks also let us ride whatever bike we want. So you don't need eyelets on your bike. You can run a full suspension bike with Old Man Mountain Racks. The racks allow us to position our gear with a low center of gravity, so we don't feel held back by the weight of our food and sleeping bag and all the gear swinging around. Well-positioned and strapped-down gear is stable and secure, so we can just ride and rally whatever trails we like.
Yeah, I feel that. So one thing I'll say over at Old Man Mountain is that your racks let you ride whatever bike that you want. What do you mean by that?
Any bike you want. We make a full selection of what we call fit kits. The fit kits allow you to mount the rack to the through axle on the bike at the center of the wheel. Every bike has a center of the wheel. So if you have a bike you love, but it doesn't have eyelets on it, it doesn't matter. One of our axles and the included gear that goes with it for the upper attachments, and you're ready to go.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what are some of the advantages of bike racks versus traditional bike packing bags?
Personally, for me, I'm a small rider. I'm 5 feet tall, so my bikes are very small. I can't even get a water bottle on my mountain bike. So racks allow me to carry gear. And bike packing has kind of been on this arc. It used to be called touring, and racks and panniers were the standard. Then we came up with small seat bags, frame bags, handlebar bags, and that was for fast and light trips or credit card packing, things like that. And they work great for that when you don't need to carry much. But it kept growing and growing to try to take on longer trips and longer sections of trail and rides without resupply. So now there are all kinds of new designs trying to stop these oversized bags from swaying around and getting in the way of your drop-up post, particularly with the seat bags. Really, the best solution has been here all along.
Yeah, no, they really are amazing. And actually, my friend and I just went bike packing for the first, well, it wasn't my first trip, it was her first trip, and she's 5'2", and finding a solution to fill that gap was really hard. How do you get all this stuff on your bike? And we actually got an Old Man Mountain rack to go on the back, and it really fit the bill. I mean, you're able to put way more stuff on. So proof of concept right there. They're amazing racks, and I appreciate you coming on to talk to us about them a little bit. If people want to check them out on the interweb, where should they go?
www.oldmanmountain.com.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for coming on today, Katie. We'll see you on the trails.
All right. Thank you.
In honor of having Ronnie Romance on the episode today, I also want to plug my friends over at Ombra's Sunglasses. If you follow Ronnie on Instagram or follow him on his blog or anywhere else, you'll see him wearing Ombras. They are the sunglasses of choice for many elite athletes, Ultraromance and myself included. They truly are one of the most practical pieces of gear that I have. They are super comfortable, and they look cool too, which is important. We're going to talk a lot about aesthetic on today's episode, and Ronnie will vouch for the importance of aesthetic. And Ombras has aesthetic out the ass. If you're not familiar with these sunglasses, what makes them unique is that they don't have the arms. They are armless sunglasses. What they have instead are little ropes or kind of like a lanyard that would wrap around your head, and you really got to go to their website to see how it works. But the string attaches to the frame and then wraps around your head. It's a whole thing. But that arm that's there, that's usually wedged between your ear and your skull and smushed all together by your bike helmet, when you take that away, the pain goes away too. So super functional piece of gear, but also super comfortable, and they look great. What else could you ask for in a pair of sunglasses? How about this? How about a discount? How about $20 off your next pair of Ombra's sunglasses? And to sweeten the deal, when you buy a pair, you get $20 off, but Ombra's, as a way to say thank you, will also send Bikes for Death $20. So to take advantage of this amazing deal, head over to their website at ombraz.com. Use the code BOD20 at checkout. Get yourself $20 off a pair of sunglasses. Send $20 to your favorite podcast, and ride in style and happiness. How does that sound? All right, the bills have been paid, and now it's time to get to my episode with Ronnie Romance. But first, let's have Miles Arbor kick it off with the Bikes for Death theme song.
You load up your bike, you ride away from home. You could be with your friends, or you could be alone. You ride for a day, or maybe more. You just love being in the great outdoors. Everything you need is strapped to your bars, including that new pillow you got from Santa Claus. And then you think, oh shit, to yourself. You left that super lightweight tent on the living room shelf. Bikes or death. Bikes or death. Podcast.
This is good. Yeah, definitely a little chilly at Dilker Park this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're fucking professionals, man. So last time we chatted, you gave me shit because I didn't have the arm. So I want you have to be gentle with it though,
with the arm.
because it.
Yeah, that was a real sticking point last time. I
Yeah.
was like, this could have been great.
This could have been a good interview.
Put it right here.
Yeah. So everybody can hear your voice.
Yeah. When I was on Howard Stern, they had all this stuff,
Yeah. Did they have strippers too?
Yeah, that was a different time. Yeah.
I think Howard Stern's still going.
He is. Yeah. He's somehow melded with the times. I don't know how, but
Well, we all
either
have
somehow.
to or they'll cancel us, I guess. I don't know.
Right.
What kind of coffee did you get?
I got an oat milk cortado, perhaps the most pretentious of all coffee drinks.
I've never even heard of it. Half of it's in your beard at the moment.
Yeah, that's where it stays. Yeah.
That's just
Yeah,
moisturizer.
get you that pick me up the rest of the day.
Beard oil. Yeah, just lick on it. You cool to just chat?
Yeah, you can go right into it.
Yeah,
Sure.
I mean, I just hit the record button. I, don't want to get too formal here.
Right.
I know you dressed up for the occasion. It was completely unnecessary.
Yeah, dry cleaned my sweaters last night in anticipation, but okay, I guess this isn't a video interview.
No, the internet's not ready to see you in all your glory.
Yeah.
We got
sweaters on. Yeah.
We got to temper the conversation a little bit.
course,
If everybody was looking at you the whole time, it would be rather distracting.
Yeah, right, of course.
Man, it's good to see you again.
Likewise, yeah.
I appreciate you coming all the way to Austin just to chat with me. That was, it really speaks to what a big deal I am.
It does. A few thousand miles, but what is that when you could be on Bikes or Death?
I agree.
Yeah.
Clip that, Ben. Clip that, and we'll play it at the beginning of every episode. Good. We got the soundbite interview over. What are you doing here? What are you doing?
I still come back. I lived here from like 2004 to maybe 2010 or so. Yeah. So I have a bunch of connections here. Everybody who I now am friends with, I've met in Austin somehow over those past years. So, in particular, my business partner and best friend, Patrick Newell with Ultradynamico. So him and I go way back here in Austin. We were bike messengers together in the early 2000s. Met that way when I came out here to get a job as at Gold's Gym, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah. After college, I was a personal trainer at Gold's Gym at when they used to have it at 6 and Congress. It was like a pretty happening place. It was like a grinder meetup spot, and the managers, as per how we opened this, when you get people to I've got, especially then I was really clean shaven, just like a dolphin, like a muscular dolphin right out of college, and they hired me to be like the homosexual liaison to the Gold's Gym downtown Austin to bring in more clients, because it was a popular spot for such a thing.
Really?
So I didn't last too long, but I met some people at Oil Can Harry's, and later on went to be an erotic dancer there. That was brief, but I did that.
That's a true story.
It's a true story. But this is how I came to Austin,
Wow.
Early on, and was trying to get into bands, just trying to do whatever I could to like not work, but still live the life. And as I'm sure anybody who was here during that time remembers, it was really inexpensive to live here.
Yeah.
And I had been trying to move to the Bay Area to try and like work my way into like sweep floors at Specialized or something, like any kind of bike industry job I could get. But I was just looking at my savings and being like, I'll never be able to move there, And I was like, I can move to Austin right now. I got a place like in Barton Springs apartment complex for like $400 a month. And yeah, it was just
you can't
like
even rent a
up.
bathroom
That's
for
amazing.
$400 a month.
Yeah,
now.
it was incredible. I'm sure you hear these stories. Oh yeah. Used to be. But yeah, it was really cheap here. And so yeah, I just would do any job I could find off Craigslist or anything to just pay the rent and try not to as much.
That's so wild, man. Yeah. You're a wild man. You are a wild man. I wanted to ask you this question. Let's just get into that one now. I'm curious. You said to live the life, doing whatever I could to live the life. You went to college in Colorado.
Yeah.
What was your degree in?
My degree, the fancy term is kinesiology.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm an exercise scientist.
There you go. Yeah.
But yeah, it was exercise science, like a PE teacher.
That makes a lot of sense with the stripping.
Yeah,
nothing to do with Gold's Gym. But that really helps with stripping.
It helps with stripping. Yeah, you gotta have
gotta
have that foundation. Yeah,
you want a good firm foundation. I would think absolutely.
Precisely.
That is so funny,
So
man.
went to school for that and ended up getting like figuring out that it was a little easier to make money being a personal trainer. So yeah, I did that when I got here.
Yeah.
And but it didn't, like I said, it did not last. Didn't last too long before Patrick had a job for me at being a bike messenger downtown. So that was the dream job, which was especially then before it was all electronic. We were still making runs to the courthouses and all this other stuff. And there's only like 6 of us. And I still am friendly with all those guys from that era. It was just a cool time to be in Austin for sure.
Yeah. It's still cool.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's always going to talk about the good old days. So I'm curious, like, I don't know how you would classify yourself. From an outsider's perspective, I would say successful. And I don't know many people who are successful who got there by accident. I'm curious, what has been the driving force? Like, you went out of college, you said, I'm trying to live the life. What is it that you've been kind of pursuing and obviously being intentional about?
The bicycle is definitely the uniting force throughout all that. And it was always, living the life is always like, how can I hitting this? Living the life was always been about like how, that's what I want to do. Ultimately, that's like the honey of my day, is going on that bike ride or doing something on the bike, and there's all sorts of other things that factor into that that's related to the bike, but outside factors like the bike build, like what the bike is, what the bike means to me, what the bike maybe means to somebody else. And it's like a holistic approach to cycling. And it, as I'm sure many of the listeners have the feeling that when the bike becomes the lifestyle, it's like everything to you,
Yeah.
And so that I've always felt a very strong connection to the bicycle in that way. So, it's always been about how can I work the least and ride my bike the most. And a few times like that's crossed over into racing, and like maybe I need to get into racing and get paid to race my bike or something. And I tried that. I went to Fort Lewis in Durango, Colorado, the college to ride mountain bikes, try and ride mountain bikes professionally.
Oh,
kind of like sight unseen from Connecticut because it was cheaper than going to a state school there. And so I went out to Durango and was like, I'm going to get on the Fort Lewis College mountain bike team. And they still are producing all of the top pros like Sepp Kuss and Howard Grotz and like all these really big names in professional cycling now all came through that program in Durango. So I was like, okay, well, I could be a racer. That's like one way I can do it, get paid to ride my bike somehow. And like, how do I get into the bike industry? It's just kind of all these like outside factors that kept me from being able to do that. I think I'm not always the most committed when it comes to certain things. Like I've really got to enjoy it. And so I think that plays into what you said by accident. It's like, absolutely. Like, I think everything's really happened to me. It's a strange way to think of it, but yeah, in many ways it is like I've never tried to, it's always been something has to happen naturally for me to fall into it. Cause I don't really push against anything. I'm not like a pushy person.
Mm-hmm.
So it's if something's going to happen, it's going to happen. But if it's not, then okay, I'm going to put my energy somewhere else.
Yeah.
And with bikes and timing with, I guess we're talking pre-social media right now, but it was always just going places, finding the bike culture that I could maybe fit into best and, learn from those folks and contribute the best I could. And there's always like that unifying, like when people are into bikes, it's like easy to talk to them. It's always been my social circle. I can only socialize with people about bikes and on bikes seemingly. And so you meet these people.
Now. You've really cornered yourself.
Yeah. Really, it's
you
true.
Can't get out now.
You can't get out. And I never would. That's I've always been perplexed by people who work at shops or were in the bike industry from an outsider's perspective when I was not, when I was just like in the orbit of the industry or whatever, and like looking in and being like, they don't even seem to like bikes. I don't know what it is where you can, you know, own or work in a bike shop and just to test bikes. Like there's something about just doing something you love for a living and it ruins it. Right.
Right.
And so I've kind of always been aware of that, growing up in the curmudgeon, like bike shop world, you know, always being wary of that, being like, okay, how do you avoid, you know,
Yeah.
how you avoid falling into that
I
trap?
was actually going to ask you that question. I was curious if you've ever, because from what I can tell and from chatting with you before, like the majority of your life, the bicycle has been a big part of your life in one form or fashion for a majority of your life. Have you ever like fallen out? Have you ever, I made the joke earlier, you've kind of boxed yourself in here, but like, have you ever felt like trapped or have you always had that passion?
Yeah, you know, from 13 was like 12 or 13 was when I started getting to like curating bicycles and finding like parts that make everything work together. And it really played to my mechanical mind. And so it was like a multifaceted way to get into bikes, not only into riding them, but you're into the actual curation of the bicycle and like how it works and how you can improve it and all the little tweaks you can do and seeing how it works. And I was just fascinated by that. And I got into mountain biking with some local friends of mine in Connecticut, and there was no scene there or anything. It was just like us going into the woods, and and when we turned 16, they all got driver's licenses and got into cars because they were all into mechanical stuff. It was like those kinds of like shop kids. And so then I was left all alone. I didn't have any friends, and went through, you know, recruiting others, trying to see if I could get anyone else to go out into the trails with me or whatever. But, you know, wasn't really happening until I got to Durango. But I guess I'm digressing here a little bit. I should say I moved on when I moved to Austin here, I started road racing and got really serious about road racing. And we started with Patrick, who I do the tire company now with. We had a team here called Team Woolly Mammoth, and we got by the end of for about 10 years we did that. By the end, we got a pretty good amount of funding where we didn't have to pay for our races. We were able to pay other people to ride for us, and had some good hookups with some bike brands and things like that. But it got like so serious that I burnt out on it completely. And anybody who's road raced around Austin, Texas, it's tough. Like, you know, training out here, you got to ride on the feeder roads for I-35 if you want to like not hit a stop sign or something, especially then where there wasn't much bike infrastructure to begin with. It was just to kind of like sap the life out of riding for me, just being so mechanized about it and not having any
especially coming from like Connecticut and Colorado.
In Colorado, I was just like, what am I doing out here? You know, it's just like chip and seal, like into the wind, you know, and like
paved jungle.
Yeah, exactly. So that really, I remember also at that time realizing that the people that I was riding and racing with, like we would get back to, we would get back from the race or something. We'd want to meet up afterwards, and it wouldn't matter if we were only like a mile or two away from wherever we were meeting up at like a coffee shop or like a place where they were getting beers or something, and they would drive there, you know, and I was like, we're just like, so you like live a few blocks away. I was like, we're not cyclists here. What are we doing? We're just out there on the hamster wheel racing road bikes. And so, for it didn't last long, but maybe about 6 months, I nearly stopped riding altogether, and I focused on frisbee.
Like disc golf or
ultimate frisbee?
Ultimate frisbee.
I was like, okay, frisbee, this is fun.
That is so funny.
So frisbee and got into trail running a little bit.
Well, you say, all right,
yeah.
you say frisbee, like, were you trying to do it professionally? Like, what were you doing for a job?
I had at this point, I was working for my father on a charter fishing boat in Connecticut.
Oh, wow.
For like 5-6 months out of the year. And I did this pretty consistently until about 6 years ago or so.
I didn't.
And so I could always, like, no matter what that was a really good safety net to try my dreams or just try things out. I always knew that I could come back. I come crawling back to Dad and being like, okay, let's chop some fish up.
What do y'all do? He owns his own boat. Like what?
Yeah, for 45 years now, he's he's had his own charter fishing company out of Old Saybrook, Connecticut, Sea Sprite Sport Fishing. And
plug for dad.
Yeah,
there.
plug for
there
dad.
You go. My audience is going to be all over that.
Great. So, yeah, really. Want to come fishing in Connecticut? Hit it up.
They might. Yeah, we probably got some fishers out there. Yeah,
CaptainPete.com. That's my dad.
That's awesome. Well, that's why you come by this look naturally.
Yeah,
you,
that's right.
You do look like you're captaining your own ship for sure. Yeah. So
yeah,
you would go out like during the summers and work and just kind of lump some money together, and then that gave you the springboard to kind of pursue some other stuff.
Exactly. It was like it were 14-hour days, 7 days a week, but you could like condense it all, get all the work, get your money for the year and go out and do what you wanted the rest of the year. And for me, that was riding my bike somewhere. And I've realized the cheapest way to do that is to bike tour. And so I would just leave each year, and oftentimes I would just come here to Austin and dog sit and hang out and online date, things like that. That was towards the about 10 years ago that ended. But that was like I'd just try to find any place warm. So that's how I started going to Tucson too. It was the same sort of thing. There's very few places that you can go in the wintertime. And I mean, this is not a good example here in Texas right now, but generally.
Yesterday, though, would have been nice.
Oh, it was very nice. I was wearing the tiniest shorts I owned all day yesterday, and that's it.
Oh, you had clothes on. Okay, that's a step up from last time.
Barely, yeah. That's true.
Last time you were going to keep your clothes on.
Yeah. Come find me at Old Can Harry's a little later.
Man, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
So this whole time that you're working at the boat, like what were you just like trying to stay out of corporate America, just like trying to find a groove and I mean, clearly you found it now, but what was going on, in your life? Were you trying to figure out, what's next? Like, what am I going to do for a job? Or were you more just like, I'll go do fish and then I'll go bike tour for 9 months out of the year?
Yeah. I had a pretty bad accident here as a bike messenger where I like hit a curb cut the wrong way and just woke up in the emergency room essentially, and had a bunch of medical bills and everything. And I was like, oh, what am I doing? I feel like I got to get serious here. And so I would have like little, and then I would go back and try to get I went back and tried to get my master's in education at what the heck in San Marcos. Yeah. UT wouldn't take me. The San Marcos one where all the party boys go.
Yeah. And, it's like Texas State.
Texas State. That's what it's called. Yeah. I didn't finish, but I would have like little like wake up calls like that. It would be like, oh shit, and but then I'd always fall back into my own old ways. And it's not necessarily that I'm a lazy person, but I think I may have already said I'm definitely self-regulating. Like I could take on a lot, but then it I don't know, I don't try terribly hard, like we were saying before. So things don't always pan out for you when you have that personality.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't necessarily that I was, I would look for jobs, but oftentimes I get discouraged about all of the steps that would need to be taken. And I always had that safety net with the boat, like I was saying. So I was like, this is not quite as good of a deal as what I have right now. And I had come to a conclusion that I didn't want kids and I didn't want to get married or anything like that. So that was like a big sigh of relief and like an aha moment where I didn't have a time frame, like that took in my 30s in particular, that took my late 20s or 30s. I was like, well, what's the rush? I don't have anything. I'm not backed up against anything. I have there's no clock ticking here. I could take my time and I don't have to go do something, work hard at going to do something I don't want to do, or I have the luxury of just kind of letting it all settle and let something happen naturally. And I know it sounds like a hippy dippy sort of like, but I mean, it's just, I think that we don't take time to really realize what we want to do. And, it's like we don't have that. A lot of people don't have that luxury, but I think there is something to be said about not, really contemplating and letting things happen slowly and naturally and sustainably. And that's a great way to make sure that you're in it for the long haul, and you could kind of, be nimble and mold yourself and mold I don't know what I'm talking about. You know, it's just kind of go with the flow.
Well, you're saying like find what it is that you're really
Yeah.
passionate about, find out what you're good at.
Right,
and
right.
we are pressured by society to establish those things very early. I mean, we're going to college when our prefrontal cortex isn't even fully developed, and we're like, well, you need to know exactly what you want to do, and you've got to, you know, have the pension by the time you're 30, so you can get your house and the kids and all that stuff. And I feel a lot of kinship with you, and really respect how intentional you've been with your life, and that you have given yourself the freedom to explore yourself and the world in the way that you see fit. I made some missteps along the way. I got married a couple times and had some kids. You know, kids are great, but shouldn't call that a misstep. I mean,
do they listen? Yeah.
No, they don't listen. But I there was a time in my life I was like, when I was in my late 20s, I was like, I'm never gonna have kids. I never wanted to have kids, and I thought I was gonna live this other lifestyle. And it puts a lot of pressure on you when you have kids, and it should.
And it should. If you're a good, like you hear about like the cool dad trope, you know, it's like, well, if you're a cool dad, you're probably not a good dad.
Yeah. Very true. And I want to be a good dad. I absolutely do. Yeah. As much as I called him a misstep, sorry, Lila and Sloan, I didn't mean it. No, it's just I've been forced to take jobs and to do things because I am a father. But like, as I'm, you know, talking to you, I'm like, man, I would have loved to spend, you know, 9 months out of the year just touring and kind of, you know, figuring it out as you go. And I think the world would, in a lot of ways, be a better place if people were doing the things that they were passionate about. Not that they just wanted to make money and
for sure.
have a cool house or cool car, but if people were genuinely pursuing their passion. And that's one thing that's super cool about you is, you know, when someone buys your tire, they buy a bike or your handlebars or whatever, your bags, you do everything. I'm trying to get them all. Like, check. They're buying something directly from you. There's not a marketing agency that's done it. I mean, you are doing the thing that you are passionate about, that you think is, well, you say what you're doing, but putting words in your mouth, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, like, that you can see there's a difference whenever you go to ronsbikes.com and you go to walmart.com or whatever. And maybe, Yeah.
And I think it's cool that we live in a, you know, with all of the, with everything terrible about social media and the internet and whatever age we're going into, you know, there's, you know, you take robots. It with the age of robots. I don't know where we're going to, just trying to think of how my bikes and bags, of how I can digitize them and put them in the metaverse. But I'm sure we can get in there somehow.
all of my questions came from Chat GPT.
Yeah, so. I'm answering the same way. Yeah.
We're actually not even here.
Not
right
even
now.
here.
It was crazy. I watched, total side tangent just real quick. I watched a video on the social media internet recently of Tom Cruise giving an interview, and I found out afterwards the entire thing was AI. It was not him at all.
Oh, wow.
And I could not tell the difference. It was mind-blowingly good and scary at the same time. You think about that and Chat GPT and put that shit together. You got Boston Dynamics building fucking robots. It's like, what the, you know?
Yeah. Another side tangent with that Boston Dynamics building robots. I don't know if you saw that 60 Minutes episode with that. They had Brian, oh gosh, you're gonna have to edit this so it doesn't sound like I'm forgetting his last name. Holdsworth.
I can do that.
Yeah, you could do that. Brian Holdsworth. He's a frame builder, a really, really nice guy in out of Boston, of course. Holdsworth. Am I saying that right? You have to look it up. You could ad lib. But
we'll get AI on it.
I thought it was super interesting. He's the nicest guy, and he's brilliant, obviously, because he works for he makes robots for a living. But that was in the 60 Minutes interview. He was the one working the robot as they were showing, you know, what they were doing in Boston Dynamics. And it was a bicycle frame builder. I thought that was interesting.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like a classic, like a lugged, like really nice bicycle frame builder, like 2 generations in, like his parents even built bikes.
You did on our last interview said that the bicycle is like engineering 101.
Yeah.
And so that's the robots engineering 101 class working on bicycles.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah, Boston Dynamics is proof of concept right there.
It's right there.
Listen to Ronnie. He knows what he's fucking talking about. That's what's going on. So did you come here just to come to Austin? Is this the destination, or are you?
Oh, no. Yeah, just for a few days. Just leaving tomorrow morning. Yeah, heading to Tucson.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what, are you riding, looking to get out of the cold weather in Connecticut? Like
Yeah. I've had since we last spoke, a lot's happened. That was pre-pandemic, pre everything. But we've taken on an off. Like it's funny the way the second my partner Ari and I stopped. Of course, we had to go home to Connecticut. She's from Connecticut also. When the pandemic hit, her sister was having a C-section, so we knew like a birth was happening, and we wanted to be home for the birth of our nephew. And so she was going to fly back, and it was right there in like mid-March, and we didn't really know what was going on. So we drove the van from New Mexico back to Connecticut, thinking we were just going to, say hi and head back out again.
Sure. 2 weeks, right?
2 weeks, but no, we never left. And we ended up getting a house.
A haunted house, I think.
Yeah, definitely haunted. It was built in the late 1700s. So there's some few,
it's really
definitely
cool.
something going on in there.
Yeah.
And we bought all of this stuff wasn't in the plans at all. It was just it's just things that happen. And I just been going along with it and seeing what happens along with it. It's been a lot of more work than I had ever imagined for myself, I suppose, but it still feels manageable. But we ended up buying a factory too to make our bags, because those folks were retiring, the people that were making our bags in Connecticut.
Yeah.
So we bought that factory, and so we have 8 employees there. And so it was like, well, am I gonna? And I've always been able to get away for a few months every winter to go someplace warm, but I was like unsure if I was going to be able to do it this year. And Aria was like, well, we had a long talk around Christmas, and she was like, you're not as happy as you usually are, something's going on. And I was like, I don't know. And she's like, yeah, you need to go for a little bit. I can take care of the factory here.
Oh, wow.
So,
that's so nice.
Yeah. So super nice. She knows exactly what I need. And, a few weeks ago, I left Connecticut in the van and started heading this way. And I can only drive like 4 hours a day max. So,
really?
So I stop a lot along the way and take pictures of weird things that I see off the road, or I try to do a ride or a hike or a run each day wherever I am. And so, yeah, it's a really nice way to, I think I could like a through line back to the Smashing Pumpkins video for Today, way back when, which is not a song about heroin, but if anybody recalls that, there's like a big ice cream truck that they're like traveling across something like in the video. It's a really colorful, like vibrant video. But ever since that video came out when I was 14 or 15, I've always wanted to be like on road trips constantly, and so it's nice to do that.
That was one of my questions, actually. I mean, a lot has changed. Our last episode came out December of 2019, so it was, right before the pandemic. And since then, I bought a house. I mean, you're in Connecticut now. You were living a very nomadic lifestyle. Now you're trying to figure out if you can get away for a few weeks to go ride your bike. So what are some of the pros and cons of this new lifestyle, and what do you miss about being on the road?
I'm being on the road it's definitely where I feel most comfortable, whether that's on the bike or in the van or just being out and about. And it's just the way that my brain works. I'm scattered, so scattered. Everything's everywhere. Like my workshop, my workspaces. If you give me space, I just completely everything. Just a yard sale. And so it's nice being either touring on the bike or in the van, because everything you need gets condensed. Right, it takes away all the static. So it's just like you're never looking for things. You always know that you have what you need right in front of you. And it's a great way to simplify your life and make it, compartmentalize it. And if you're a person that is as scattered as I am. And so I've always felt, I always sleep better. I always have more solace when I'm on the road, because it's, everything's there. And so that works really well with my brain. And so, and I also, I just like riding my bike in new places all the time. That's like the best. You can get addicted to that, where you'll be in one place and it's never good enough because you've been traveling your whole life and you just want to ride in a different place anytime you can. So that's another way that I've stayed so engaged in cycling too. I think is just you have so much variety, and if I get tired of one place, I go to another spot and another new zone, because I love connecting dots on the maps. Like that's ultimate for me. I could stay up late every night just looking at maps and overlays and thinking like, oh, this mountain range looks cool. I want to ride my bike into there, and maybe I'll have to carry my bike over this, but that's cool. I'll just keep going, things like that. And so, being on the road doing that sort of thing, as opposed to being in Connecticut, which we live in a beautiful part of Connecticut. It's one of my favorite places to ride in all of the world.
Really?
Yeah. And so it's, I could never complain about that. We have got a great house. We live with Arya's mother, who's really cool to have around. She's from Tibet, and just it's like a really like peaceful presence around the house, listening to her recite her mantras, and
really?
like it's just like it's a pretty cool living scenario where we could have that intergenerational thing going on. And we've got a lot of space, some big barns, 12 acres, nice swim hole, and all the riding. And I've got a good cycling community there that we all ride the same types of bikes, and we're all into that same really curated style. So it's a good life, it's a good life in both places. It's just that, it's just about, I guess, just balancing it now, and I think like if I could get away for a few months each year, then that's a great balance for me.
Yeah.
I really am happy and content there. We're close to my parents too, and my sister and my nephews. And so it's cool because they're all getting older, and it's just nice to be there with them.
Not us, but them.
Yeah, right. We're never getting older.
Obviously. You're getting younger, I think, from the last time.
Yeah, since we last talked, I've definitely gotten younger. Yeah.
I want to tell you a story, a little bit of a side tangent, but I've told this story to many people, and it's about you. When we were at the bikepacking summit at Mulberry Gap in 2019, you remember, I believe his name was Charlie. He gave a presentation on wilderness first aid.
Yeah, very informative.
Yeah, it was great. You and Arya sat back to back. You remember that?
Yeah,
Yeah. It was a really it was like a tender moment. It was like these people are very comfortable with each other. It was very cute. Y'all are, for anyone who doesn't know, there's a substantial height difference, but y'all just like sat back to back and essentially used each other as like a support system. And I thought it was really like, kind of cute and endearing, and it made me, I'm like, these are like really cute and lovely people, and I don't know you hardly at all, but just that like little interaction, I was always like kind of touched by that. And I thought y'all were just like kind of a sweet couple.
Oh, well, thanks. That's really nice. Yeah. Arya's the love of my life, where she's, we are very cute and sweet to one another most of the time.
That's good.
Yeah. But yeah, when we're together, we're generally spooning or doing something like that at all times, and so yeah, we have like a we like to say a healthy codependency, but but yeah, it is nice. We do everything together, and we've been together for 10 years, and the whole time we've either been touring on the bikes together, going through the whole like doing the whole like influencer thing. I'm trying to think of like what you call like the influencer era, because I think we're over the influencer era. I think it's done. We definitely are, but being paid by other companies to go travel the world, which was a pretty cool thing for a while there.
Yeah.
And doing all that together, and then starting the businesses together, and doing the house stuff together, and now we grew up in the same area. We didn't know each other growing up or anything, but yeah, it's just one of those things where we're very comfortable with one another. And yeah, I love her very, very much, obviously.
Very cute.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. I'm glad that's the way that we look, and don't make people puke, but.
Oh no. I think it's like if you're like making out in front of everybody.
Right.
But
Yeah,
I mean,
little
like
just
intimate
hugging.
moments.
We're always hugging. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's cute. I think, probably, I'm twice divorced, so I don't give a relationship advice, but I think that, it's probably a lot healthier to just
it's nice.
be endearing to
we
each
definitely
other.
have our arguments, but yeah, for the most part, we like to come back to that loving core there.
Yeah. So another thing that I've talked about with you, I'm just going to spill all my beans real quick. I was talking to my friend once, this was a while ago, but we were like, that guy has to work out. Like, he doesn't have that body from just riding bikes. Like, and we had a discussion about this.
This is good. I like this.
So I want you to answer my friend and I's question.
Okay.
What is your health and fitness routine? Like, now I know you have a major in kinesiology and you worked at Gold's Gym. So I know that there's something going on there.
Yeah. It's hard to say whether or not it's all leftover or genetics. Cause that was in high school. I was very into lifting weights and which was funny. I don't think I really understood that was like, the antithesis of being a good bicycle racer was bulking up with your muscles.
I did see a picture of you like on one of you described in our last episode, you were riding the 90s BMX like a pogo stick because the handlebars are so close together. But I did see a picture of you, I think you posted, and you had like big beefy arms and cut off sleeve. And that's when you looked like a dolphin.
Yeah, precisely. Yep. Those are the dolphin era. The dolphin era. Yeah. So
quite the sight. Big old shoulders, big broad shoulders on a pogo stick handlebar.
Yeah. So like I broke my arm. I like spiral fractured my humerus. Not funny, humerus. When I was 21, and never really got back into like serious weight training after that. So literally from 16 to 21, I worked out 5 days a week with weights and was taking all the creatine and and all the like tubs of whey protein and all that stuff. And that's how I really got into, that's why I wanted to go to college to be a trainer and things like that. And I'd always been into like, improving people's, fitness any way I could, whether it be nutrition or, I was into this stuff. I don't know why, but yeah, I've always been into, I guess, realizing that maybe I could, I wanted to be a professional bike racer when I was in high school. And so I just realized like, I got to get a few books on nutrition and study this stuff. And my mom is a really healthy eater. And so she was always really supportive of that. So, I've always been like conscious of like I come from both my mom and my whole entire family on both sides, they're fat shamers for sure. Like they're not good at, it wouldn't fit into today's, the stuff I hear at home. Just like, whoa, it's like, this is what I came from. So it's like,
that's a lot of our parents.
It's a lot of our parents. So, yeah. But them in particular, they're both, in their 70s and are still really fit and everything,
They are fit. I am surprised.
Yeah.
My mom just turned 70 actually.
Mm-hmm. And so, it was just like, I grew up with knowing, being conscious of that, but never really worked out much after that really bad accident that broke my arm so terribly because I had to be off the bike even for 8 months.
Really?
And that was the last time I ever tried to do any of. I was into like free ride hardtail stuff, like North Shore style, like wheelie dropping off to flat, 6 feet to flat or something. Just stupid. So that was the end of that to me too. And that was also the last time I ever rode suspension.
Really?
So I guess I've dabbled in it a few times since then with that specialized fuse thing. But yeah, I was like, no more. I'm going pure. Like nothing that can. I want to ride my bike for the rest of my life. I got to get out of this bullshit.
Yeah. Plus, medical bills
aren't fun. And so long to answer your question, no, I don't work out. And I think maybe it was just I like built up that muscle early on, and it just never fully left me. I mean, I weigh like 40 pounds less than I did then.
Yeah.
But yeah, it never really left me. But I've always, again, I eat really clean as I can. And I'm mostly, I'm vegetarian, mostly vegan. And I have been this whole time too, I guess. Maybe that helps some people.
Yeah.
People's bodies are all different.
Sure.
But I think that I really do well with that diet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's just, I mean, running and riding bikes, and you're working on bikes, like you're using your body.
You don't want
So
to know
you're-
what I bet you it is?
Tell
Yeah,
me.
I say this too. Body by ATB. It's the when you're riding, especially where we live in Connecticut, the trails are rugged. Like
That's
it's
your
a
new training program.
It's a
You
full
just-
body workout.
That's a whole nother business venue that you have.
Body
You
by
just
ATB.
Body by ATB.
Yep.
Sponsored by Ronnie.
So most of the rides that we do throughout the year are full body workouts. Like you're pumped from head to toe. Like there's no muscle in your body that you aren't working when you're doing like a proper rock crawl.
And you're running and stuff. I mean, all that stuff's great for
Yeah.
your legs and your core and,
Right.
and everything. So
I walked 20 miles yesterday.
Did you?
Check me out on Strava. It's my longest walk.
yeah, why the hell? I guess in Austin, you went on a walk,
Yeah, I love walking in cities. That's one of my favorite things. It's
taking
nice.
pictures, people
Yeah,
watching.
it's just anything. Yeah, it's just that I'm really good at walking. It's my best sport. I've always been really good at it, and so yeah, it's just a nice. In Austin is way better for bikes than it ever was.
Yeah.
But I still kind of hold on to that. Like, it's a little nicer to walk, and it is. It's a pretty. You could do a big loop around the whole city now, and you get to eat some good places along the way, and it's just a nice place to take in. It's a nice place to take in a city at a pace like that.
Yeah, I agree. I like walking cities. Let's talk about the riding in Connecticut. You just touched on it a little bit, but yeah, what is the riding community? And here's another thing. You can answer this one too. I don't know if this is by design or if you're just a cult influencer, but you do. You are the people that you ride with. They have the same kind of bikes. They have the right handlebars. They're all have rim brakes. Whatever it is. But are you like? Is it mandatory that everybody does that to get into the club, or it's like you've created your own aesthetic and your own brand of cycling in a way, that does seem very unique to you.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I'd like to think it's a mix. We've got some pretty cool influences in our area, and I'll say, Nutmeg Country is what we call our little area. This is a triangle in southern Connecticut, with Guilford, Connecticut at the west side. Lyme, Connecticut on the east side, and then as far north as Middletown. And we've got this, if you look at the map of Connecticut, you could see that it's a big green space. And there's very few major roads that run through it. So it's got a really nice country feel to it. And it's an area that was, that was colonized, one of the first places that was colonized on the East Coast. And then it's the mouth of the Connecticut River. That's where we are, right at the bottom. The Connecticut River is the major waterway of New England. But because of all of the snow melt coming down from Canada, it runs all the way through New England and comes out right in our area, is a giant sandbar at the mouth of the river, and no big ships have ever been able to get up it. And so even though it was settled in the 1630s, it's never been a giant. It's never and loads of farms were put in there. There was never any industry, never any big industry, because the ships weren't able to get in. And so you have this place that has remnants, like the old 300-year-old roads and trails and paths everywhere, that's still there, but the people aren't, because they've all moved west or gone to some place where they can make more money doing industrial stuff. Even in New England and like the industrial age, they all left our area. So it's like this area that's been forgotten, just left the way it was hundreds of years ago. So the aesthetic, like when you're actually riding there, what you see is it's like traveling in time. The houses, I'd say most of the houses are historical homes that were built, a long ass time ago. And you're meandering. You're like, why is this road even here? And you're just like, I haven't seen, you'll barely see any vehicles, nothing. Like, why is this road here? It's like, old farmer Ebenezer had to get his like hay to his carn to. That's how they say corn and oldie timey. His carns.
I thought you were talking about a car.
No, yeah, say it with me now. Carn.
Carn.
Farmer Ebenezer needs his carns.
Farmer Ebenezer needs his Chirons. No, I got to work on that.
That was pretty good. Yeah. So that's old English for you. So they would, had
I'll
to get his
I'll get
to,
you on the Texas draw.
Yeah,
I'll let
right.
you have
I'll
the
get you have
Connecticut
that
slang.
one. Yeah, you let me. That's long since gone. But yeah. So it's like a unique area where I feel like the style of that's been developed there is we like to not kind of like match the region, and it's a lot of the tones and the colors and the patterns and the style of bicycle. Like there's a rich history of cycling in Connecticut. The first ever safety bicycle ever pedaled outside of Europe was by a Frenchman in Hartford, Connecticut.
Oh wow!
The Pope bicycle most of the Pope bicycle factory before it came to Singer sewing machine factory in Hartford, Connecticut. So a lot of the early production bikes were made in Connecticut.
That's cool.
And it's just got this cool, it's got this cool like rusty, well-worn, honest, like, feel to everything around there. And so that definitely is my inspiration when I'm designing things. And when I feel like it just naturally lends itself well to our environment. And that's how everybody who rides there tends to have that same style, because we're also heavily influenced by Richard Sachs and Peter Weigel, who also live in our area. For people who don't know, Richard Sachs and Peter Weigel are two of I would call what you call it, you don't call them like best, but like most coveted frame builders in the world. I'd wager to say they make very like old, lugged steel bikes, and they always have. Richard Sachs has made a career out of just making one bike and over and over and over and over again. And he's been doing it since the 70s. And so is Peter. And they started in England and then came back. And Chris Chance of Fat Chance was the painter there in his 20s. And this all started in East Haddam, Connecticut, Whitcomb USA, which was a bicycle brand that only lasted a few years. And then they went out and did their own thing. But they make like the French randonnier revival that's happened in this country you could trace that right back to Peter Weigel. 650B and rando bags and fenders and like that old style that we all emulate. That's all Peter. So I like my era is 90s mountain bikes. And so I take equal parts, like Charlie Cunningham and Peter Weigel. And I think that's how you find our style there. And we all play off one another in our little riding group there too, because we're all equally as into the curation of the bicycle as everyone else. So a lot of the times our rides, we just meet and we just admire one another's bikes for a little bit and go out and ride, go out and rock crawl. Yeah.
You're really flexing is a very important aspect of your life, from flexing literally with your muscles to flexing on Instagram with your pictures to flexing with your bikes among your friends. You're just a flexer.
We got flexer. Yeah. I'm always flexing.
That's all you do. You're like, how can I flex the hardest today?
Yeah.
I want to go to the bike ride. I want everybody to look at my bike.
Exactly. Yeah, you treat it like a prom, going out,
Exactly.
going out to get my. What am I going to wear today? Yeah. But yeah,
I got to pick out my cutest outfit.
Cutest outfit, and
Well,
we all
always
got it. Yeah, we have an inseam requirement. Yeah, if you want to ride with us, it's got to be
Nothing over 4.5 inches.
It's definitely 3.5. Gets shorter every year.
I like it.
Yeah, the pants fray a little bit. They get a little bit shorter.
That's right. That is right. Yeah, it started at 4.5.
But we've all got a lot of bikes in our area, and it's cool that we can. I don't know. It's cool. We trade a lot of parts, and we do a lot of cool stuff with that. And I guess we're always like looking on eBay. Most of this, I guess we justify it being like, oh, so and so dentist bought a $10,000. One of their bikes is $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've got maybe 3 of our bikes would cost $10,000. So 4 maybe. So, we just kind of be like, okay, we can have another one.
That's economics. That's just bike economics.
Bike economics, and you can never have too many,
So tell me this question. What is your, I don't know, pick, let's say you're on a dating app and you have to, and you're obviously looking for the perfect bike, not the perfect partner here on this app. And the question is, what does the perfect day on a bicycle look like to you?
Perfect day on a bicycle. I like, I love a good group ride. I love a good group ride where everybody's there for the same reasons, whether it be going fast or going super slow and just chilling the whole day. I prefer to chill the whole day. And we would meet up in a scenic place, whether it be a coffee shop or just like a place where we could sit in the sun. I'm actually thinking of like our Saturday and Sunday rides at home in Connecticut, because those are, I have such a good time there. And we all meet up. We have some tea in the sun. I have some like Adirondack chairs that we sit in. We just chat. We usually smoke a joint before we leave, and we all start pedaling. And you hit the woods. You got to hit the woods immediately. I like to spend most of the day in the woods. That's like the big picture is you're spending the whole day in the woods. And what a better way to do it than with your friends on really cool looking bikes.
When you go, oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, okay. You could go ahead. You can jump in.
Okay. I guess I'm interviewing this thing.
You're the interviewer.
I'm the conductor here. Let me take over, Ronnie. What are you riding a dedicated single track? Are you riding double track? You carving away? You're making your own path through the woods?
Yeah. In our area, you would be a lot of like chunky double track, like 4-wheel drive roads or carriage roads, as we call them in our area. The old roads that lead past old foundations in the woods kind of leaves it up to your imagination what used to be there or something, and you're connecting as many single track parts as you can. No one's really concerned with how rideable anything is, and nobody's complaining if something isn't rideable. It's just part of the flow of the day.
Yeah.
And you may have to pick your bike up and walk a little ways, or just get completely jackhammered by a rock garden or something. But we stop and wait for people when we need to. I like to bring a big thermos of tea, especially in the wintertime, so that anytime we stop, which is probably, every hour, I'd say we stop for about 10, 15, 20 minutes, and, have a snack and regroup and chill and sit in the sun. The sun's got to be out, got to be laying like a lizard somewhere. And it's really nice in Connecticut in the wintertime when there's no leaves on the trees. You're completely blocked from the wind, because you've got all of these like weird glacial depressions and like little hollows and whatnot, and you got full sunlight on you, because in the summertime you don't even see the sun in the Northeast. I'm the palest I ever am in the summertime in New England, because you just don't see the sun.
You come out of winter whenever it's probably gloomy, and then you go into summer where you got all the canopy from the trees.
Full canopy, can't see anything. So it's the ride would probably be 5 to 6 hours. You've got a singular point in mind where your longest stop will be, where you've packed your lunch in, whether you're packing your lunch in or like want to ride to a place to have lunch at like a restaurant or something. But mostly there's not many restaurants where we live. It's not much of anything. So we're packing our lunch in. I've got like an overlook spot in mind, and we'll just hang out there for as long as we can and ride back. But you've got to make a big loop out of it. I don't like out and backs or anything like that. I like committing to a big loop. It makes it so you don't have a way to, you can't be like, I'm going to go home. Something like that. I'm tired.
Put yourself in it.
Yeah. Put yourself in it. And then you get to it. Then you get back, especially in the summertime. We've got a really nice swim hole down on our lower property. And I'm thinking this was my favorite ride of last year. Was our friend Josh had ordered ahead, had gone to the farmer's market earlier on and gotten a bunch of pizzas. And we've got like a fire pit near the swim hole. And everyone gets back from the ride. We warm up the pizzas on the fire pit and do the rope swing, jump in the water and hang out some more. But it's just a day of socializing in the woods, with the common thread being the bicycle, obviously.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Follow-up question. So what's the perfect bike?
The perfect bike,
for Ronnie. And that was one of my questions from a patron. So thank you, patrons, for your questions. We're going to insert those in here. Ching ching.
Let's see. Yeah. You got to pay for that.
Yeah. that one costs money.
The perfect bike. Well, right now, it's always gonna sound like I'm marketing to you, because I make bikes now. So
well, I'm actually teeing you up. I have a feeling where this might.
I understand what this sounds like, just to preface that. My perfect bike right now is that Alumilith, which is the Frank the Welder aluminum bike that I did with Crust as a collaboration this past year. And
sorry, Frank the Welder?
Yeah.
Is that's a person, Frank the Welder?
That's a person. Frank the Welder is, I would argue Frank the Welder has made more bikes than anyone in this country right now as far as his career goes. His career started with Mongoose in the 70s, where he was welding 130 forks a day.
Yeah, wow.
And so he's prolific. He did he worked for Yeti. Like you name a star from the 90s, he made them a bike.
Gotcha.
Whether it was under his own, whether it was under his own, well, it was never under his own name, but whether it was under a company that he was working for, or like that company he was working for was making bikes for somebody and they were rebranding it another bike company or whatever. And so he's an aluminum master. He's a steel master too. He's just incredible manufacturer, and he's right there, and he's in New England now. And I knew him. I have known about him since the mid '90s, because my favorite bike brand in the mid '90s that I could never afford was Spooky Bikes out of Connecticut, and it was a brand that was owned by straight edge hardcore kids, and they had like the coolest shit. And that was in Connecticut, especially in the mid '90s. Straight edge hardcore was the shit. Like that was. It was prolific. You could go to a show every single weekend, like at your like town hall, and it's just like this tiny, you could live in a tiny New England town and just, stage dive 95 all night. And so
to Cookie Monster voices,
all the good stuff. So I was really into the hardcore scene, and so were these guys that were doing Spooky Bikes, and they hired Frank on after Frank was working for Yeti in Durango, and he came out and started welding bikes for them. And so the Spooky Dark Side was like the Connecticut East Coast single track bike, and he made all those. And Spooky is still a brand that's around today, but it's like 4 owners in, and it's not related to the original at all. But I was like, I was like, I want to just start up Spooky Bikes again, because that was my dream. I was like, that's what, like, if I could think of one thing that would just blow my mind, my 15-year-old mind, it would be like, oh, now I have Spooky Bikes, or like I can make bikes that somebody maybe will think is cool, or as cool as what I thought that bike was.
Yeah.
And so the first part of figuring that out was getting a hold of Frank, which Matt from Crust kind of made that connection by ordering a bunch of dirt jumper frames that he still has for sale. Those are not big sellers.
Crustbikes.com.
Crustbikes.com. Buy a dirt jumper.
I always wondered, that was a random bike in their lineup.
Yeah, that's where this came from. We had to kind of butter Frank up a little bit and get some frames done before we could ask him to do this weird project for us. And so with the Alumolith, that was like me being like, okay, this is where I'm at right now. This is like everything that I've learned about bikes thus far. This is what I'm going to put into this package. And I had been, I kind of tested out, had kind of like over the pandemic, had bought a few 26, aluminum bikes. And I had a bunch of 26er, I had grown up riding aluminum bikes, 26 aluminum bikes with rigid, with pumped up to 50 PSI with the tires, as rigid as you could make a bike. And that's what I grew up riding. And remember, it was a lot of fun. And so I was like, wow, aluminum's gotten a really bad rap these last few years, because it was, it was relevant for a very short time period, and nearly now forgotten. You had this 10 years of aluminum, where aluminum was the material before they started adding like carbon fiber seat stays to it, like trying to do all this wax stuff at Y2K, which is anything made in the Y2K era is all junk, and so it'll never be collectible. It's all terribly ugly, and it just killed aluminum. And so carbon fiber takes over. Nobody's even thinking about aluminum anymore. Aluminum gets like this bad rap for being too rigid, too stiff. Everyone's like, steel is steel. Steel kind of became the de facto, like cool guy bike after that. And so I bought 2 specialized S-Works, like 1992 Dural cans over the course of the pandemic, and like kind of decked them out, and was like, oh, I'm going to change a few things on here. And of course we've got a tire company, so I was like, I'll see what kind of a difference a really good tire makes at, inflate it to the correct pressure PSI instead of 50, try 25 instead of 50, maybe even 20. And so I was like, oh, these bikes ride amazing. And they're super light, like so much lighter than the comparable steel bike. And they don't feel any different. You're just like, this feels the same. Like, what are people talking about? and it just so happens to be 2-3 pounds lighter sometimes. And when you're doing the types of riding like that, so coming from like a heavy bike touring background, off-road bike touring background, like, rough stuff fellowship style, like lots of portaging and carrying your stuff. And like the hardest parts of any bike tour or bike packing trip, right, is you're inevitably probably going to have to push your bike somewhere. And it's made all the more arduous because your bike weighs 50, 60 pounds sometimes because you're packing all your shit in on it. And so I always like enjoyed those parts of the bike tour, but it was always kind of like, oh God, this is like, this is getting a little bit too hardcore. And so after settling down in one place and not being able to do the full-time bike tour anymore, kind of growing out of that, to be honest. It's nice to revisit that kind of riding, but with the lightest bike you could possibly use on it while still being practical. And so I found I found that aluminum lended itself really well to carrying and portaging and doing all the stuff that we like to do to connect the dots on the maps. Your classic all-terrain bicycle ATB. Yeah. And I was like, well, I asked Matt, I was like, I think we can do an aluminum bike? And he's like, fuck no. He's like, that'll rattle your teeth out. I was like, no, trust me.
It is weird though. Yeah. Like here's the thing, like I can't speak from any sort of expertise because like there is that sentiment and that belief that is out there that aluminum is
and we've done crazy things to sell bikes. The bike industry is fucked in so many ways because it runs just like the auto industry where you've got a new model year every year, and the big companies in particular, you've got to come out with something that's different every single year, that kind of pressure. And most of the stuff you're going to come out with is I mean, they would never admit it, but you don't need it. No one ever asked for these improvements, and so you've got to come out with something different each year so that you can have everybody like discount last year's stuff and get rid of it. And so that the bike shops can get in the new stuff. Yeah. And
I mean, it's consumerism.
And a crazy thing like bicycles where it's not like like you look back, you can look at the data book or, it's a bunch of stuff of material you could look at that was written in like the 30s and 40s, and you're like, holy shit, that's the same, like that's somebody's marketed that as an innovation in like the last 10 years, like right there, like that somebody came up with that in like the 30s, like like the bicycle has not changed. It's starting to change now with electrified everything, but I'd argue that that's not even a bicycle anymore. Wouldn't argue. I would state that that's not a bicycle anymore.
And that was a challenge. You're ready to argue. Yeah. I'm not going to argue with you.
I'm not arguing. There's no argument.
Even better said. I'm not arguing. I'm telling you.
Telling you that's not a bicycle, and that's a totally different sport. If you want to get into that, that's fine, but don't.
It's better than a car.
Yeah, it's better than a car.
I mean, I will take that.
We'll take that. If you want to get into that, that's totally fine, but that's not what I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
And that's not the kind of person that I'd be marketing to in the first place. But it's like I
don't think they're coming to your website.
Coming to my website. So the thing with bringing back aluminum, and I will say it had really gone to the wayside. No one was doing like a curated aluminum modern vintage, whatever you want to call it, bike. And so I came to Frank, who now builds in New England 2 hours north of us, and he's got a giant shop out there. He owns the building, and it's just like this perfect New England manufacturing spot with just him, and maybe 30,000 square feet, just so many machines. He bought the whole building for like $100,000 10 years ago or something. It's just an amazing spot. Wow. I've seen a lot of cool frame builder shops over the years, but nothing comes close to that. Like,
I've just seen pictures on your Instagram.
Yeah, it's unreal. I'm going to have to go back there and spend like 4 days to try and photograph the whole thing.
Yeah.
But and then again, working with Frank, and he was so, like, despite his standing in, I don't think I've really ever met somebody who's been that entrenched in bike industry for that long, who's still that affable and like, so like, just like a really nice, easy to talk to, no chip on their shoulder type of person, like responsible for so much of what I revere in the bicycle world. And he's just super humble and was like eager to work with me, and just like spend like really near, like I'd maybe we're at friend status now. I don't
know. Question mark?
Yeah.
So, Frank, if you're listening, please let Ronnie know.
Let me know if we're friends, Frank.
Accept his friend request on Facebook, please. Did he scoff at you? It sounds like not. It sounds like he didn't turn his nose up at your idea.
No, that's the thing with Frank. Like, he'll make whatever you want to make. Like, like someone like Richard Sachs, who we were talking about earlier. You come to him and he makes you what he thinks you need. And that's a totally different way to manufacture something, which I respect also. But with Frank, it was whatever you want. Even that like totally funky segmented bolt-on switchblade style fork that we did too. He was like, yeah, we could do that. Like, yeah, that'll be fun. And I think he gets a kick out of building this stuff again because this is what he started his career with.
Yeah.
And so that bike just came out so good, all built up. With very like reasonable parts, it's sub 25 pounds.
Yeah, that's really
and
good.
Highly.
And you're on a large or extra large?
Extra large, the 22 inch, and 650B wheels, or 27.5 by. You can fit up to a 2.6 on it, but I ride our Mars tires, which are a 2.2, which is perfect for the type of riding that we do. And if you ride in the desert or something, you need something fatter. But I find fatter tires, I can't pick the lines that I like. So I like, especially in Connecticut, you're going a really low speeds and kind of like threading needles between rocks and things like that. So if you've got a big fat tire, you kind of have to roll over stuff, which I don't like to do. I like to dance in the trail,
Like a ballerina.
Like a ballerina, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, a nice light bike is great for that, And so, so that bike not only set up with either like upright bars or drop bars, like a dirt drop style. Like it's a great bike for getting, like I love riding to the trail, like making a ride of, I love mountain biking. That's or whatever you want to call it. Aria makes fun of me because I say, oh, I'm going mountain biking. Like, we live in Connecticut. There's no mountains here. And
it
I like
rolls
to ride
off the
trails.
tongue better than ATVing.
ATVing, I can't do. So I love to ride trails. That's what I like. But the thing is, I'm not going to drive to the trailhead. It kind of seems silly to me. So I like to make a big loop out of, riding to the trailhead. And we could ride just country roads where we are. So it's an easy way to do it. And we have lots of trails that you could connect to other country roads and things like that. So it's nice to have a bike that does everything well like that. The transfers in between. And then once you get onto the single track, you're in a good spot too. And you've got a small bag to carry your snacks and gear in and stuff so that you don't feel like you've got to, ride your ass off in order to get home before it gets dark and freeze to death or something, or starve to death out there, which I grew up doing, so I know what that feels like too.
Yeah, you're speaking from experience.
Yeah.
Rim brakes, right?
Rim brakes, I love. That's another thing that, nobody, there's disc brakes for me are good for limited applications. I will say, like, if you're riding in a really rainy area, like the Pacific Northwest or something, I could see the disc brakes being an advantage. Or if you're riding in a really the only time that rim brakes ever give me trouble is if it's below freezing and I ride through a creek or something, and then you go to grab your brakes and it's just ice on the rims and you don't have brakes.
I wouldn't know. I would stay inside.
Stay inside. Yeah. But I love the modulate. First off, I love the look of rim brakes. And I would say a big hallmark of my bike builds is it starts with a look. And then I'll be like, this is what I want my bike to look like. I'm going to achieve that. And it may take a few rides. It's a concept, but that's what I'm always like chipping away at, is how to achieve this look while making it the best bike it possibly can be. Yeah. Like, how do I not compromise on what this bike looks like? Because I'm so into the whole package when I'm out there. Like, I don't get motivated to ride if I'm not on the right bike, if the bike doesn't match the surroundings, if it's not like something that's cool to me. Like, if somebody were to it sounds super pretentious or whatever. I realize what I sound like, but if I can't borrow people's bikes, like there's no, like if I go to a place, be like, oh, I've got a bike for you. I was like, no, I'm not going to ride it.
Yeah.
I can't, it's not the same for me. And so it's not even the feeling, it's the look. Like, I've just got to have that look. I know it's super shallow, but that look is super important to me. Yeah. And so it's a matter of having that look and making that bike perform as well as possible. And oftentimes the two lend themselves to one another. You get that fashion and function and vice versa. So the bike that Alumilift that I'm on right now with the drop bars and whatever bars I put on it, essentially it's just the perfect bike for doing everything that I like to do on a bicycle. And the rim brakes, we're still talking about rim brakes too. Sure. That's right. The rim brakes look a lot better. You could build a lighter fork, a more flexible fork, because you don't have to worry about the opposing forces between the dropouts and the disc brake when you're
I never
braking
thought
all the
about
way at the
that,
bottom.
but
It's
it
a
makes
giant
sense.
lever, you
Yeah.
know? And so a bike that Frank just built me now, which is kind of like my gravel road bike. It's got center poles that are mounted super high on the fork blade. And so it's super stiff and there's no deflection in the frame or fork or anything when you use the brakes. So the modulation is just perfect. And a lot of the stuff that I like to ride, like when we're rock crawling, you're going down super steep, like granite slopes or something, and you're having to modulate the whole way to try and not like lock up your brake or like have that perfect, just like it's just perfect. You could just do that with rim brakes. And I feel like with disc brakes, oftentimes, especially if you're using cable actuated disc brakes, which is what I would prefer because hydraulics I don't fuck with. And so it's like, those brakes are on or off. There's like very little in between.
Yeah.
And rim brakes get a bad rap because people just gave up on learning how to adjust them. The last stuff, probably the last era of cantilever brakes in particular that people remember are those Shimano super low profile ones with that plastic yoke in the middle. If anyone remembers, it was like a predetermined, like you could not adjust the height of the brake yoke. And so that's like one of the main adjustment points when you want to adjust your brakes for power and modulation. And they took that away completely, and those brakes barely worked. And so everyone just thinks of, oh, those rim brakes, that doesn't even work, you know?
No.
Don't even get me into rim brakes. Disc brakes on road bikes is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. That's just the industry trying to sell you a load of shit. I'm telling you, like
There's probably a
disc
lot of
brakes
that.
have no place on road bikes. And yet road bikes are getting heavier. They're getting way more complicated to work on. They're getting way, just hideous looking. This is like the road bike was like the last holdout of like a simple, beautiful, like fashion and function, like perfect tool for the job, right?
Yeah.
And they've just shit on it in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And I love it that Tari Pagaccia was riding a rim brake version of what bike? What was he on, Pinarello or something? I can't remember, but it was like a big deal that he was riding like a rim brake bike. And I love hearing that from like actual pros, them being like, no, they're trying to like make us use these disc brakes, but they don't work as well.
Right.
They're not as good,
Yeah.
and the bikes are heavier, they're stiffer. It's just like not a good thing to max in there. They're just trying to sell you, just trying to discount the old rim brake road bikes, and
That's
got to
all
move
it
on to
is.
disc. It's
Yeah.
all, and road
then
bikes,
in
absolutely.
5 years, they're going to be like, you know what? Actually, these rim brakes were great. We're going back to that. So now you got to upgrade again.
Upgrade again. Yeah, they'll figure out something else. They'll have like that spoon brake on top of the tire.
Oh yeah, they need the spoon brake. So the Luminith, am I saying that correctly?
Alumalith.
Alumalith. It was named after something, and
Yeah, it's a glacial event that formed the Connecticut River.
really interesting tie-in to the aluminum as well.
Yeah, I thought that was neat. Yeah,
it's a great tie-in. Are you? I think you're selling that just as a frame.
Yeah, just the frame and fork. Just the frame and fork.
That's cool though.
Yeah, it's
Gives
cool.
everybody the chance to build it up. It sounds like a versatile bike that
It
you
is,
kind of
yeah.
build up to. I think the way that you just. I'm guessing that the Alumalith is indicative of the type of riding that you're doing right now. It sounds like in Connecticut.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Yeah.
you can kind of build it up as you see fit.
Yeah,
How much is it? Let's sell some bikes right now.
Well, the frame and fork, $2,000.
Easy.
Easy breezy. Made in the USA. That doesn't happen anymore. Made in the USA by Frank the Welder.
Dude,
like
that's
this guy
fucking
made John
awesome.
Tomac's bikes,
Yeah.
Missy Giovi's bikes, Julie Furtado's bikes. Like you
Really?
Yeah. Like this is the
He's
like
the man.
I'm blown away by that, and he's just being like, yeah, we can make bikes.
That's one thing I think is really fucking cool and should be commended is how many jobs you're creating, how much stuff is in America. And I don't know the full extent of it, but I know that you bought Nutmeg Needleworks, or I mean, obviously it's rebranded for you, but you bought the factory. You must have employees working there on the bags, and I mean, you got tires, and you got Frank building bikes. I mean, it seems like you're doing a lot of stuff in America and creating jobs, which is amazing, man.
Well, thanks for it's a cool, the made in USA stuff is not something everyone can afford. I realize that, but I think we have a specific customer at this point now where you're like, if you want to, like, I feel especially with our sewing factory before we took over, like the last owners were very much into competing with China with their pricing and the way they treated the employees and things like that. And so it's kind of like whereas now we have customers, not only with the bags and bikes, but like at Nutmeg Needleworks, we also do like half of our business is like handbags and laptop sleeves, horse halters. We do all sorts of stuff for other customers too. And so
cool.
the people that come to us are young designers, and they're getting stuff made in the US because it fits into their brand story, you know, and it's the story they want to tell about the stuff they make or sell. And they can put faces to the makers and things like that. And it's just like a pretty cool, rather than, I like to buy right, buy once kind of person. So instead of buying stuff that is
Well, it's like you're just talking about
and-
the cycling industry. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I get this bike this year, and next year they tweaked
Right,
one thing, and I gotta
right.
buy a new one. And it's just we got to get I don't know. I used to be a big consumer. I used to be trapped in all the things, the cool car and need a new bike every 6 months or whatever. And when I stepped out of that, was one of the most liberating things, because you spend so much of your time and your money. You got to work for money so you can buy the thing, and just go ride your damn bike, man. Just don't worry about,
Make sure it's got the look you're looking for, though.
you do have, I mean, I think there's validity there. Like, you do have to, you want a bike that when you look at it sitting in the corner, that you want to go ride
Precisely, right? Yeah, like you want to like lean that up next to your desk at work and be like, oh yeah, I'm coming for you, baby.
I'm coming. I got to do this right now, but I'm coming. Yeah.
I'm coming for you.
I think it's
I think that makes. I think that really makes the like the holistic cyclist too, because the bike is an extension of you at that point. You know, it's not just something stock that you've bought from a shop, or now most people are just or consumer direct models from like Canyon and Specialized or whatever. It's not. There's that connection, that way that is going to connect you to community, or like a riding group that you're going to keep on going out with, and it's becoming a part of your lifestyle. You know, I feel like the more you put into the bike to make it your own, the more you're invested in the bicycle as the holistic approach. And so that's what I'm about. So it's I try to encourage that as much as I can. So when we do the builds, we do a few customer builds with the Illumiliths. We offer that, but it's generally, they'll tell me, oh, I want to use it for this or that. I like this look. How will this play with this? How will this shifter work with that or whatever? And I'm like, okay, I'll put together a parts package for you. And it's always off eBay. You know, that's how I do my stuff.
Really?
And so I love using old parts, because those parts are made way better with way more intention than anything you could buy now.
Wow.
And oftentimes you could find them at like a mint condition on eBay, or even just like a few scratches or whatever. You could tell when things have been used. Like looking at derailleur pulleys to see how worn they are, you could tell how much use that derailleur's had and how good the spring will be or something. But
man, you love eBay.
Yeah,
You're
I do.
keeping that place in business. Do you own stock in eBay?
I'm telling you, that's where I spend. That's all of my internet like fun time is on eBay.
Yeah,
and so I just collect old derailleurs and front derailleurs in particular. I like to say that I have the largest collection of front derailleurs on the East Coast.
And tires in your mom's house.
Yeah, tires in the mom's house. But and those are the things I like to incorporate into these builds. And so for customers, I could, if they're unsure about putting something together like that, we do that for them also. But it's all part of being like, okay, like this derailleur, this XTR M950 derailleur, 9-speed, was put out at like the pinnacle of Shimano's like attention to detail or something. Like this was it for them. After this, it went all downhill, and like they started. People will remember this when they put the STI shifters and the brake levers on the mountain bikes. It's all Y2K stuff. It's the worst ever.
Yeah, but I missed all that.
And so I kind of like piece together parts from that era and make them work with like Campagnolo Ergo 10 shifters if they don't want friction down tube shifters or something. It's just cool to see like how you can make these things work, and the things you were able to do before they became so before all the tolerances became like so specific with like 12-speed Eagle stuff with that giant pie plate cassette in the rear. Like they've really complicated things and made it so that only certain derailleurs work with certain setups and whatnot. And it just makes us that, especially if you're from a bike touring perspective. I guess this is where I came to this from, was like, if I'm traveling in a far off place, can I fix this? You know, it's like, will I be able to get a replacement part? Will I, can I fix this on the trail? And with that modern stuff, oftentimes the answer is absolutely not.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to wait like weeks for like a new 12-speed chain or something,
That's something you said about, I remember the first time we chatted, your first bike tour you ever did, complete shit show. It's a great story, actually. I mean,
the extra cycle,
the shit shows always make the best stories. And if you didn't listen to that episode, you got to go back and fucking listen to it, people.
That's right.
And also, I listened to it in preparation for this episode, and I'm like, that was before I had an editor. So I have all the original files. I'm gonna go back and have my editor remaster it and make it even better. So we're gonna
the
tighten
Centurion
it up.
edition. Yeah.
I think Ronnie's episode deserves a remaster for sure. Get out of the amateur hour. What was I going to ask you though? Fuck. Oh my gosh.
Fixing things on the field.
Oh yeah, you said 26-inch tire.
Right.
Yeah. Because you. You didn't need a new rim, but you need a new tire because you wore through your tire, and you were like knocking on doors to try to find somebody's kid's bike who you could buy a tire off of.
I'd be like so nervous asking people that these days. This is a different time though. Yeah.
Oh,
it was like people like just hanging out in their yard and be like, hey.
Yeah. Now it's different. Now you're on Ring camera.
Yeah,
and people
totally.
are like,
what was this?
Why is this guy selling me drugs?
This muscular dolphin trying to sell me drugs.
This hairy muscular dolphin.
It's not happening now.
But it seems like you've continued that idea that the importance of a bike that is repairable, that you yourself can put in a bike stand and tinker with it.
Precisely. Yeah. Which is really important to me, to be able to figure all that out.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I ride primarily 8 and 9-speed drivetrains now with a wide range double in the front. Like my favorite ATB setup would be like a micro drive crank, which is a 94 BCD crank from the mid 90s. I like to run a 20 tiny tooth, a 2038 with maybe like a 2036 with a 38 bash guard. And then I'll run an 1134 in the rear or something, and 8 or 9 speed. And the way that those, you've got a complete range there, a great rock crawler. You could ride up something that's nearly vertical, and I love pulling levers and like doing all the, I don't know, I really do feel like I'm part of the bike when the more levers I have to pull, or like whatever I've got to do to make the thing work. And so that bike shifts great. That setup shifts great. It's super crisp. I have it right now with just some like friction bar end shifters, but it also performs really well in the mud or in the dust in Arizona or whatever, because you've got that wider spacing between gears for it to flush out. You don't get jammed up in ways that other people do if they're riding modern drivetrains.
Listening to you talk about bikes and gear and stuff is like listening to a wine connoisseur describe like a vintage wine. Like I was actually at a little, we were doing a mezcal night with a charcuterie board. Charcuterie board, one of those. And we were talking, one of the guys there was talking about, the origins of all this stuff and the way it's manufactured and stuff like that. And if I were to buy a bike from you, man, and have you build up a bike, like you're really getting like a connoisseur.
You're getting a maniac, yeah. Like built by a maniac, yeah.
I think I can get down with that though.
Yeah.
I mean, you make a good argument for your aesthetic and your style of riding. I mean, it's all very intentional. It's not happening by accident. You know exactly what you're fucking talking about and why you're doing it a certain way.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you. I've been trying to wrap my head around you've been doing this a long time in terms of being in the cycling industry in different varying degrees, and now you own like 37 different companies, and it's hard to kind of put a bow on the whole thing and like put it all together. But I'm wondering, like, what is the thing in your life that you are the most proud of? Like, what have you done that you're like, holy shit, I can't believe I've done that, or whatever? Like, what stands out to you?
Good question. Yeah. It is, I feel this Frank the Welder connection has been a big thing for me, I'd say. And I think that's a night when I think about it that way, that I'm always like, when I'm striving for something big, or I don't know, strive is the wrong word, because I say things do happen just kind of by happenstance. Like when those intentions are out there subconsciously, I suppose. Like I've always wanted to have like a bike brand, or like I don't know, but I think of so much of my connection to bikes is rooted in nostalgia, and the way that bikes made me feel when I was a teenager, and just alone, no social stuff hung up on it. It was just me and the bicycles, me looking at the bicycles and just poring over the catalogs and researching the racers and what their lives were like, and just being like, oh, maybe I could do that someday. Or like, oh yeah, these bike companies, oh, this is so cool. Just, and it's material stuff. Right. And it's totally a product of capitalism and whatnot. I understand, but it just, I don't know, I would say it's a religion to me, like bicycles I'm not a religious person, but bicycles to me that's like the way, and I've always thought of myself as like a evangelist for them, and so it's like, this is like, to me, that it just worked out so well for me. It just got me, like, I have such fond memories of riding bikes and discovering bikes as a kid, or a teenager. And so making that connection by being like, oh yeah, like the way I used to ride bikes back then, that was cool. I was onto something there. Like that's something that was completely not tainted by like modern advertising of like moving the bike industry forward. Because in the 90s in particular, like it was a lot like it is, like there were a lot of cool like small brands, and they were marketing, but you were buying stuff from the person who was making it. I always thought that was so cool that you could, like Paul Components is the only one that's still around from that era. But I'm happy to have a great relationship with Paul, and he's really cool to talk about that era with, and about how he's come out the other side and still doing the same thing.
Podcast too.
He should.
I should get him. Actually, maybe I should just interview him.
You could just interview him. He's a really cool guy.
Put him on the list.
Yeah. And so it's like I thought this stuff was so cool that you could make something, like you could use your passion to make something that other people want and are passionate about, and they appreciate it, and they're buying it from you, not from this nameless internet site or whatever. It was mail order back then. Corporation, conglomeration, whatever. But you're like actually tapping into the spirit of the sport or the activity. Like you're getting you have a direct connection to it, as opposed to being a few people removed. Or like you're buying stuff from a big bike corporation. You've got all of these people that need to make this decision before they could even like put in a new braze on, like a new like water bottle cage or something. Like you have got to go to like 6 board meetings for that. Like, oh, do we want to put a water bottle cage in this area on this bike or over here? Or like all of this like grinding stuff that needs to get done that just completely saps passion out of a project, And so I've always held like old frame builders, Ross Schaefer from Salsa, of course, Charlie Cunningham, he's like God to me. But like I've always put a lot of weight into these companies that make this cool stuff, and that you can't, I don't know, I don't see it around as much anymore. And so being able to work with Frank on bikes, it's kind of like my connection to, like I was saying, like wanting to have spooky, like wanting to be that brand and have that stuff and offer that cool stuff to the world. So me being able to do these bikes with Frank, and hopefully I'll be able to make more, but this is the ultimate for me. Like it's just such a cool full circle back to what I thought was the coolest, and like in like an era that I really aggrandize.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, you went from bags, bars, tires, and now a bike, and that really is the pinnacle, right? Like it's the Air Jordan of the shoes. It's like, I mean, what do you want to do? You want to? I want my own bike. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like my dream is to like one day have the Bikes Are Dead version of something.
It's true. And Matt from Crust has been super. I'd say hold my hand through all of it, but it's like when I did a bike with him, the Romancer, early on. And it's always been, the Romancer has always been fraught with like them coming damaged from the factory in Taiwan or something, and us losing a bunch of money that way, or like the paint being wrong, or like, there's always something, we've always had to like like we've never made a good amount of money off of them. And so I've always been like, well, can you even make money off bikes? Like, it's just completely a passion project. And it's still, it wouldn't be my number one choice for making money, but again, that's never been it should be maybe more sometimes. I should look at that stuff a little bit more sometimes, but it always is like, I want this. I think we can make it work. I'll put it out there. I'll see what kind of interest I can get from potential customers or whatever. And maybe it'll work out great. And even if I break even on it, it's like a legacy thing or something. I'll think of. I want to make things that are collectible. I want to, because of how I feel about those parts from the 90s and stuff that I put on these bikes and collect, and what I was so tuned into at that time. Like, I want to make something that's people still see useful enough in like 20 years to still ride, and be like, oh, I'm looking on eBay for an Alumilith or something. Like,
that'd be cool.
They're still out there and they still ride, and they're still cool bikes.
Someone will save a magazine with Alumilith. Cut out the picture.
It's a totally different era now, because you do have all that stuff in print that
control option 4 on the Mac.
Option 4. Yeah. Order now. Control option 4.
It's like we were talking about earlier. I said earlier. I mean, it's just really impressive, and it's super cool, like what you've been able to accomplish. And it's been born from following your own passions and following the things that are important to you, the aesthetic that you're looking for, the parts you're looking for, and not compromising over price and switching something just to sell somebody something. And it's a direct result of that, And so, I don't know. Maybe we should all, I don't know. I think there's too many people worried about money too much of the time. I think it's, I do. I mean, I don't know if that's a business plan.
It's not a business. We've never had a business plan. We still don't.
But I just wish we lived in a world where more people were pursuing their passions and doing it for the right reasons, because when they do, you get, I think, better products. You get more interesting products, or services or whatever field you're in, and so I think it's awesome. I'm a fan.
And if I were to say that, well, thank you, first off. But if I were to say that, if I were to tell myself like this advice, like, oh, this is what's in your cards in the future when you're a dancer at Oil Can Harry's, I would say, fuck no, that's not like the kind of work you got to do to, like, people don't buy bikes from a guy like me, or like they want someone way more responsible, or just like this. You just think you can't do it. But I think, I guess it's just things happen for a reason in a lot of ways, and you stay in something long enough, and consistency. That's the other thing too. Like, it's not something that I just had an idea for to start a bike company like a year ago. Like, it's been baking since 1993.
Exactly.
And so it's just being patient with it, and and being in the right place at the right time with Instagram was a big thing for me too. It was just I don't think you could do that now.
There's a great book by Malcolm Gladwell about it. It's called The Tipping Point. And he talks about exactly that. If you look at Steve Jobs and anyone who's successful, they had to have a lot of things. They had to have the work ethic and the imagination, but they also had to be born at the right time. Like, Steve Jobs was born, and he lived in an area where they had the first ever computer at a college, and they opened it up. So after high school, he would go in there and tinker on the, and I mean, it's only through like these like sliding doors where, things have to kind of line up. But I think what you touched on is something that, as I get older, I'm starting to understand better and appreciate better. Is kind of like I said earlier, like, success doesn't happen by accident. I mean, you've been doing this a long time. John Watts is another person I was thinking about, who just really followed a passion for the cycling culture and wanting to share those stories from early on, and tell a side of the cycling industry that wasn't being captured. I mean, now Pros Closet bottom out, it's like, holy shit. But he didn't just wake up one day and say, hey, I'm going to start the Radivis. I'm going to get some consultants in here and all this. He followed his passion for a very, very long time. and after a while things kind of work out, hopefully.
Yeah,
You know?
that's what it is. And consistency is the hardest part, really,
Yeah.
because it's just, but when you're approaching it from a money making perspective too, I know John was never looking to make a ton of money off the Radavis. It just happens that way when you're consistent, and you're good at what you do. Over those years, he developed an incredible eye for photography.
Oh my.
And so it's just, you get this thing where people want to, you can go on the internet each day and be like, oh, I'm going to go. It's very few websites nowadays, right? You can go on the Radavis and you're going to have something new about bike culture, whatever it is. And so that's a cool thing to have as a consistent platform for well over a decade at this point.
You know what I'm thinking? In the future, robots are going to have a really fucking hard time emulating you. Good goddamn luck, right? Like, you're out of the mold, man, which is great, right? That should be everybody's new goal, is be authentic enough that robots are going to have a hard time duplicating you. Ronnie, thank you. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
That's fine. I enjoy talking to you.
I really enjoy it. I actually, you don't know this, you happen to be coming to Texas and save me a trip, but I'd like to, if I could sometime. I'd love to come out to Connecticut and see, see the factories and see get the whole vibe and stuff. You don't know this, but I was going to contact you and see if I could come out there this year, and maybe I still might.
You should. We've got a big, we do our Nutmeg Nor'easter, which is our big party at the end of at the peak fall foliage each year out there. Nice. And in the years we've had, this will be the 7th year we've done it, I guess, and we've had different venues each time. No venues sometimes, but we recently got kicked off the farm that we were doing it at. But we have a brand new venue, which is like this beautiful 250 acre old like scout camp. And it's got all these lean-tos and everything, and it's set way back. It looks like 100 years ago. It's such a cool spot. So October 21st.
All right.
Yeah. See you there.
Everybody listening, I'll see you there.
Yeah.
People are going to come just because of me. It won't. Actually, this year, if I go, it's
Bikes or Death.
Yeah, Bikes or Death is going to be there. So I don't know if your ego is going to be able to handle that much competition.
I'll be like, I can't believe this. I thought they liked me.
Aria's going to be having to console you extra well.
Yeah, just be holding me the whole time.
I'll share some of the stage with you.
Thank you.
Man, it's good to catch up. I appreciate you for being you and giving. I love diversity, and I love that we need that. We don't want to be cyborgs. We need variety. It is the spice of life, and you certainly bring your spice to this community and the culture, and it's awesome, man. So appreciate the time. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Cycleast, for letting us use your storage container.
Yeah, this has been quite nice.
This episode is brought to you by Cycleast on the east side of Austin for all your cycling needs. And they have coffee.
They're an Ultra Dynamico dealer.
And they're an Ultra Dynamico dealer. Go get yourself some tires. Buy an Alumalith. Alumalith. I said it right.
Yeah, you did.
All right. Bye. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. And a major thank you goes out to Ronnie for being willing to come on the show, taking a little time out of his vacation to chat with me. I love this man. He is so much fun to talk to. He's so easy to talk to. He's a great storyteller, very funny, very witty. Just a great guy. I love the guy, man. He's so much fun to talk to. And it was great catching up. It's been a long time. And I hope the next time we chat is sooner rather than later. Alrighty, folks. Well, listen, if you want to support Ron and all the things that he's got going on, he is an entrepreneur. He's self-employed, and he's got a lot of cool stuff going on. So if you want to support him, you can check out his website at ronbikes.com. He also owns a tire company that's Ultra Dynamico. You can also Google that and find his tire company. And there's links to all kinds of good stuff in there. But he makes bags, he makes bars, he makes bikes, tires, anything you need for a bike. He's probably going to have something to do with it. So go show him some love. I'm sure you already are. And if you'd like to show Bikes or Death some love, you can find out more over at patreon.com/Bikes or Death. And don't forget to support our sponsors for today's episode. Thanks to Old Man Mountain Racks for sponsoring today's episode, and Ombra's Sunglasses. Remember, use the code BOD20 at checkout and get yourself $20 off a pair of sunglasses. It's a super sweet deal, and you should definitely take advantage of it, because when you do, Bikes for Death also gets $20. And if I get $20, then I'm going to go to ronsbikes.com and I'm going to go shopping. So that's the economic circle that we want happening in the bike packing, bike touring, and bike community. Let's just keep it all in-house, eh? All right, everybody, thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure, and I can't wait to be back on the microphone very soon. But until then, you know what to do. Go ride your damn bike.
It was the middle of the night. You grabbed your knife and you held it tight. The sounds of beasts kept you awake. The sounds they made kept you afraid. In the morning, you packed your bike. Memories forgotten from the previous night. You rode faster than ever before. Was it your imagination or merely folklore? Fear turned into strength as you pushed further. Every pedal stroke stronger and firmer. Your bike feels weightless, your legs aren't tired. You think to yourself, just a few more miles. Bikes. Oh.